All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, the measure of denial exploring the disproportionality of truth. So we're going to be unpacking a really fascinating concept today. It's this almost invisible dynamic that governs how we measure the size of our actions. Normally, if we mess up or make a decision, we judge how big it is by the action itself, right? Like, how much effort did it take or how obvious was it? But what we're looking at today flips that entirely on its head. It argues that the true size of an action isn't about its physical footprint at all. It's actually measured by its impact, specifically by what it breaks. We're talking about disproportionality, how a tiny, seemingly microscopic move can literally carry the weight of a mountain.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's start with something super relatable. Think about a small lie. A tiny omission or just a quick text message that's kind of stretching the truth. On the surface, that weighs practically nothing. It takes, 2 seconds to type out? But man, look at the damage it does. That one tiny lie can completely shatter a massive, deep-rooted foundation of trust between two people. We're talking years of loyalty and vulnerability just gone in a few syllables. Why? Because the weight of that lie isn't in the words. It's in the immense value of the relationship it just wrecked. The visible size is tiny, but the effect? Totally disproportionate. It's a tiny action, but a massive rupture. And keeping this everyday reality in mind is absolutely crucial because it's the exact lens we need to understand the macro concepts we're getting into.
And that brings us to the macro level. One of the core ideas we're unpacking from the source material is this concept known as the eighth truth. So if a little white lie can break human trust, what happens when we scale that up to the level of objective reality? Well, the eighth truth dives into the immense, staggering weight of stubbornly denying undeniable evidence. I mean, look around us. We live in a universe running on incredibly consistent, observable laws. The evidence of truth is literally everywhere. Yet, as humans, we sometimes just choose to ignore it. We look the other way. The eighth truth asks us to really sit with that choice. It asks, what is the heavy burden of closing our eyes to what is right in front of us? Just like that small lie, denying reality might feel super easy in the moment, just turning your head away. But the philosophical and spiritual weight of rejecting universal truth, it is staggeringly heavy.
When we actually break down the anatomy of this kind of denial, the contrast is just wild. Think about what someone is actually relying on when they reject undeniable evidence. They're leaning on hollow assumptions, a wavering human mind, and, let's be honest, a deceiving ego that just really wants to be right. Actually, scratch that. An ego that needs to be right. They're taking these flawed internal biases and treating them like the ultimate truth. But then look at what they are actively rejecting. They're rejecting an unshakable reality, a reality that has absolutely zero broken promises, a truth that literally cannot lie, and is proven by everything we see in the natural world. It really highlights the sheer absurdity of the whole thing. Choosing our own highly flawed, deceptive ego over a universally proven truth, that is a breathtakingly disproportionate trade-off.
Which brings us to this brilliant takeaway. A tiny point equals a giant contradiction. And the goal here isn't to scare anyone, but to really shine a spotlight on this massive lack of proportion. Think about the physical act of denial for a second. Shoving aside consistent evidence just to protect your own momentary comfort. It feels like this tiny, insignificant point in space. Just a small internal decision, right? But because you're rejecting something so overwhelmingly vast, that tiny point instantly inflates into a giant contradiction. It's like trying to balance the immense weight of universal truth on the flimsy tip of a personal assumption. It's just going to collapse. This whole idea of scale shows us that ignoring reality is literally never just a small choice. It creates a massive structural contradiction in how we even interact with the world.
Now, this dynamic builds directly into the theological anchor of what we're exploring today. When we bring this idea of disproportionality to a specific Quranic verse, we see the ultimate consequence. The source material quotes Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 48. Indeed, Allah does not forgive association with him, and he who associates others with Allah has certainly fabricated a tremendous sin. Honestly, you can just let the gravity of those words speak for themselves. In this context, associating partners with the divine, or denying the singular absolute truth of reality, is the ultimate example of a disproportionate act. To the person doing it, it might just feel like a personal opinion, a slight shift in thought. But right here, it's defined as fabricating a tremendous sin. The huge gap between how the action feels to us and the infinite reality it insults, that's what makes it so severe. It's the highest possible stakes of that tiny point, creating a giant contradiction.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that this whole disproportionality thing, it's not just some abstract philosophical theory. It is playing out in the background of our lives every single day. And I want to leave you with a question to ponder. Have you ever experienced a moment where a seemingly small choice actually carried a massive weight of consistency or inconsistency? Just think about your own life for a second.
Think about those tiny moments where you chose to accept a really hard truth, or alternatively, where you went with the comfort of your own deceiving ego. The physical effort of making either choice looks exactly the same, but the reality they built, or the reality they break, could not be more different. We're really being challenged here to look way past the visible size of our actions and start measuring them by the immense weight of the reality they align with. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you looking at your everyday choices through a totally new lens. See you next time.